Welcome back to another edition of the Garage Gym Experiment podcast. I've got AJ Friesen. He is the creator of Freemax Fitness, um, which debuted at Home Gym Con last year. But I know you've been doing this for quite a while. It's been a longer process. Looking forward to hearing that. Before we get going into all of this, hear the story, you mind just giving us a little background on yourself, maybe outside of the fitness equipment?
Sure, no problem. My name's AJ Friesen. I'm actually an orthopedic surgeon. I practice in a small town in Iowa. I married to a physical therapist. She actually homeschools all the kids that you met at Home Gym Con. She's responsible for those guys. And I guess I've always done some sort of tinkering ever since probably my first hands-on experience was doing body work with my dad on my grandma's 68 Camaro.
Okay.
And 8 years old, sanding grandma's car in the garage. That was one of my most vivid memories from childhood. Grew up doing that kind of stuff with my dad. He actually worked at a meatpacking plant for 50 years. He just turned 85. Um, and I watched that man do anything from, build a house to cut two cars in half and weld them back together and make it go down the road. So I kind of think that's where I got my inspiration to kind of do lots of different things. I actually, so I went to graduate school for about 4.5 years in biochemistry and molecular biology before going to medical school. And while I was in graduate school, I actually did a lot of construction, doing remodeling, and wife while I was in graduate school. And she was working on her physical therapy degree, and I was working towards a PhD. But after meeting her, I decided I don't really care about a PhD anymore. So when she graduated, I left. My initial plan, for a while, was to get an MD PhD. And, I spent a long time doing the research, and I did all the coursework, but the research wasn't going great. So I kind of just bailed on it. I mean, I'd kind of learned everything I wanted to learn, and I didn't really care if I had a PhD, if I was going to go build houses. So I um, ended up leaving graduate school and marrying her, and then trying the real world side of building for about a year and a half was all I lasted, until I realized building for other people sucks. So getting paid is the hard part. Doing the work is easy, but getting paid is the hard part. And I came home from work one day and said, I'm going to med school. And so I applied and got in. And we ended up down in Kansas City for our first move. And she actually went down ahead of time, and because she found a job. So she lived with a buddy, a family friend of ours, and he and his wife had a big enough house, so they had her stay. She probably went down, I don't know, 4 to 6 months ahead of me, maybe. I don't even remember. It's been so long. And I had to stay and finish a remodel job. And so I finished that up, loaded up, and went to Kansas City to medical school. And while we were there, we ended up buying this little house, and it was just a little, I don't know, maybe 1,000 square foot house. And she came home from work one day, and I'd torn the roof off and decided I was going to add a second story to it. So I actually tore the roof completely off this house, and she, it's in here.
If you send me the picture, I can plug it into
Okay.
plug it in.
Yeah, I can send you a house, or at least this house picture. But yeah, so yeah, I'll send you that picture. And so that's kind of how that all went.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then so I did all of this while going to medical school
Oh man, you are
by
a tinker.
myself.
Yeah,
Yeah. So this is one of the finishing pictures. So I added a full second story with dormers and
that looks
master
great.
bedroom and a bathroom. And there's my pregnant wife. So as soon as I started that project, we found out she was pregnant with my oldest boy, Jack, who you met at Home Gym Con. And
Yep.
and that And that's kind of how it started. So we did medical school there, and then we went to Michigan for residency. And we were going to be in and out of Michigan because the program that I got into for orthopedic surgery, they send you to Tampa. So you go down to Tampa General uh, and do your trauma rotation. And that was an experience, I'll tell you that. Made me realize I didn't want to do trauma surgery for the rest of my life. And then we did 6 months, I think, in New Orleans, which my wife loved because it's New Orleans, and I hate it because it's New Orleans. And that we were there just at like maybe 2 years after Katrina. So there was, all of this devastation still, the trailers were still up, and it was something to see. But when we took the residency there, I actually lived with a lady that worked at the hospital and her son. She had a room to rent in the upstairs of their house, and I still call her Ma to this day. Um, Shout out to Ann Montgomery and Scott. Scott's like a little brother to me. He's like 40 now, which is crazy, but he had his 21st birthday when I was there. So weird. It goes so fast, Jake. You want me to just keep talking?
Well, let me ask, were you born in Iowa then?
I'm from South Dakota originally.
South Dakota. So you went
Yeah.
South Dakota to Kansas City to
Yep.
Michigan to Tampa
Yep.
to
Back to
Louisiana
Michigan.
and then
Yeah.
to Iowa after
Yeah. Actually, Wisconsin. I'm getting to
Wisconsin.
that part, Jake.
Okay,
Yep.
sorry.
So
Keep going then. Yeah.
yeah, you're all right. You're all right.
And
So
real quick, what type of orthopedic surgeon are you? Or do you
I'm
specialize in something?
so
Or
I
are you
don't.
getting to that?
I'm what you call a general orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. Yeah. But I'm a general orthopedic surgeon, but I do a lot of hip and knee replacements mainly, and
Okay.
shoulder replacements, broken bones, hip fractures, wrist fractures, shoulder replacements, rotator cuff
Okay.
surgery, that kind of stuff.
Sounds
Mhm.
general. Yeah.
Yeah, general. And so where were we at? We're in Michigan. I was living with Ann Montgomery and her son, and we bought a bank-owned property, right? So this was in 2007. And how old are you, Jake? Probably not old enough to remember,
I'm
but 2000,
37.
so 2008 wasn't good for the market or housing.
It's right when I got out of college area type. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
So housing took a dive in '08. I bought a bank-owned property about, at market value. It was $170,000, but it looked like a college rental house or even a frat house. It was that beat up on the inside. And so I bought it, completely gutted it, new roof, new windows, new doors, new siding, new kitchen, new floors, new heating, new everything. And then the market tanked, and the house that I paid 170 for, and then stuck probably 200 and some in, I sold for $105,000.
Oof.
So so after that, I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth for remodeling. We did okay when we left Kansas City because we added square footage and you know, so we made a little extra money there, paid off. I think we must have paid off my truck or something. I don't remember. Bought this bank-owned property, remodeled it, and then the good part is I'd gotten a military scholarship for 3 years of medical school, and when leaving residency, I had no choice but to go where the Navy sent me. So they actually, I don't know, they maybe covered 80 of my loss or something like that, because if you buy a house and you're in the military and then you have to move, they have a program that helps offset some of the cost. We took a big hit on this house, right, and moved to Wisconsin. We're only going to be in Wisconsin for probably no more than 3 years because that's Naval Station Great Lakes is where they sent me. And so we rented a house, right? So we rented this house there. And because I couldn't remodel anything, like I'm, twiddling my thumbs the whole time. And so I bought a lathe and a mill off of from Grizzly. You know what Grizzly tools are?
No.
No, Chinese tools. So they're mainly catered towards woodworking people. You see the green thing behind me there?
Uh-huh.
That's a big air filter for the laser. and that
Okay.
came from Grizzly. But it's Chinese made stuff, and so I bought this 1,000-pound mill and this lathe, not knowing anything about metalworking, and just started teaching myself metalworking. And then I got deployed. Well, not deployed. It was actually what did they call that? A TDY, basically a temporary change of duty. And so they sent me to Cuba for 6 months,
Oh yeah.
and all I did was work out for twice a day, every day for 6 months. I tried. I thought I'd go, headlong into scuba diving, but instead of buying all the crap for it like I normally would, I just bought the big giant fin. Have you seen the fins they use for that kind of stuff, Jake?
Yeah.
They're they're
Yeah.
ridiculous, right? So they got these huge fins, and I bought some goggles and a snorkel. And I thought, well, I'll try some free diving first. I got down underneath the water, and I looked up, and it got dark. I'm like, I'm done. I'm claustrophobic. The rest of the time, I only used them. The Marines had their own little base gym and their base pool at Gitmo, and so that's where I worked out, was at the Marine gym, and I used my fins and my snorkel in there because it's a cardio. That was my cardio while I was there. I would
Gotcha.
do the stair stepper and swim sometimes. But I hated the sun. It was hot the whole damn time. Um, but that's kind of where the initial idea for the weight releaser came from. I had no idea there was such a thing as, the big hooks that were, uh, you know, pioneered by like Lenny Simmons and the Russians and that, and Polaquin. I think he had a hand in promoting that kind of training. And, you know, I probably learned my most about working out while I was at Gitmo because I had the time to read books. So, um, Mark Ripeto's Starting Strength. There was a 5-3-2-1 book I read that was just trying different things, because I had the time.
Hmm.
I should have been doing yoga and that kind of thing, but that's pretty much what everybody should be doing, to be honest with you. But some yoga. And so I worked out a lot, and I was by myself the whole time, right? So I'm the only orthopedic surgeon on this island. So I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 6 months at a time. so, so I just kind of got into a rhythm. I started. The one thing about Gitmo is that when the food did show up to the grocery store, it was fresh.
Mm.
Um, you know, you're so it was. So I ate a lot better while I was there, to some degree, I guess. Um, but yeah, working out by myself, trying to, at that time, I hadn't really, I can't remember the last time before that I'd really gotten back into bench press and that kind of thing, heavy, and I was by myself, and I said, well, I didn't really know anybody, and you know how military people are. Um, I just
Right.
kept to myself, kept my headphones in, and did my own thing. And the workout that I was trying to do at that time had a lot of drop sets in it. So you'd have to get up, strip plates, lay back down, get up, strip plates, lay back down. And, and if if you get up one too many times, then you're like, never mind, I'm done. So I thought, well, if there was a way to keep you on the bench, or at least, to try negatives and not have to, because, you don't want to be that a-hole that grabs somebody to do a negative, and then they got to drag this weight off the top of you because you're like, what are you trying to accomplish here? So that kind of planted the seed right there. And then I went home, and, it just kind of smoldered in the back of my mind. Um,
What year was this?
that would have been 12. I was there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
So
you went home and
2012.
you built out a home gym. Is that the case?
No, I had
No.
already started that. So my first home gym, Jake, if you want to talk about my first home gym,
Let's hear it.
was so I started, I think I want to say I started lifting weights probably at the age of 16.
Okay.
And back then you could go to the Kmart's and get a bench with the close uprights, right? So do you ever see a bench with the uprights real close? and then your hands were actually on the outside of the uprights.
I've never seen them.
Never seen that, right? So in the old days, and then you would get this, it was basically a piece of pipe with collars on it. And it was a 1 inch piece of pipe. And then it had a plastic sleeve for your hands to go on, right? So imagine basically a child's toy, but then the weights were plastic and filled with sand or concrete. I don't
Oh
know
my
which it was.
gosh.
Yeah, you don't sing about that. That's hilarious.
I don't.
Um, yeah, so my friend Aaron Larson and John King, there was probably, and I think Kevin was there. Anyhow, so there's like a group of like 4 or 5 of us that would go to Aaron's house. We'd have this bar and we'd jam all these weights on there that we could, because we went to a small high school. I think I graduated with like 23 people in my class, and we had one of those universal gym things, which is, do you know what that is?
Yeah,
So it's
like
basically
a total. Yeah.
well, it's not so it's basically a
Yeah, I
station
know what you're
gym,
talking
right? So
about.
you can do bench press on one station. It's just got a weight stack. I don't even know. Maybe it had a pull down or something on. I don't remember.
Yes, I
Um,
know what those are.
yeah. So to me, that's what weightlifting was. And we were just amazed because we had this kid that was probably 2 years ahead of us, Nick Boss, and he was just jacked. He could go in there and do the whole stack, which was like 225 pounds, and we thought this guy was a monster. And then, so yeah, so we started lifting weights, and because our football, we didn't really train like that for football at a school that small. Um, and then I got my own cheap set of plastic weights at home. And then school's over, I'm off to the military. So, at the age of 17, my mom and dad actually gave me permission to join the National Guard. So I went to basic training for 3.5 months at the age of 17, turned 18 while I was down there. And I actually enjoyed it. It was crazy. I liked the structure. The structure was good. You knew exactly what you were going to be doing every day. And, you ate good and you got to stay in shape. You need that kind of direction, I think, when you're young, when you don't have any. That was the main reason I went, is because I had no idea what I was going to be doing. Um, so I went to the military. I didn't, just the National, not just the National Guard, but it was the National Guard. And I started out as a combat engineer, actually. And we did, got to work with explosives. They taught us how to use like a pencil and search the dirt for landmines. I'm like, it's just crazy, some of the stuff holy cow, hopefully I never have to use this. But it was cool blowing stuff up, and we built some bridges and that kind of stuff. And came back, and it was supposed to be my first year of college. Came back, and I got back in like October, I think. So I decided, instead of starting partway through the year, I would just take the year and work and start the following year. And that was actually when I built my first 4-post cage.
Oh.
So at the age of 18, um, my dad and my brother, actually, we built a cage, 4-post cage, got some 2-inch tubing, welded up a frame, and we had drilled a bunch of holes in it. We had to go to my uncle's to borrow his drill press so we could drill the holes straight. And we got basically some 1-inch cold rolled round bar, and welded some big washers on it, and that was where the weight would sit. So we had basically a short bar with 2 washers on it, for your J cup, and then a similar thing for the safeties. And when we built the bench, it just had you know an angled leg on the front and back that were connected. It was so heavy. That's all I can really remember about it. And we put a piece of padding on there, put some, I don't know, must have been Naugahyde or something like that on it. And that was my bench for, I don't know how many years. I was still in, I want to say college, or I may have started graduate school. And then I bought have you heard of Tough Stuff? Do they still make Tough Stuff?
Yeah, I've heard of tough stuff.
Yeah. So I had a Tough Stuff cage with a lat pull down on the back. Was my next home gym. So I've kind of had some sort of a home gym for a really long time. So I had that, and actually I lived in a mobile home in graduate school, Jake. We bought it for like $2,000 and then remodeled it. And that's where we lived after we got married. And we actually sold it. That was the down payment on our first house. But anyhow, I digress. So I had tough stuff. So I had 2 cages at this point, had maybe, I think I just had a calf raise machine that I bought at an auction. And I had these huge um, dumbbells that were the plate, not, like the small plates with the screw on the end, kind of like weighted out Smake and Now, but different.
Mhm.
Basically, commercial gym dumbbells. And had gone to an auction and gotten those fairly economically. When I think we moved, I ended up selling all of that to my cousin who was going to go play football at college and wanted some weights. So sold him both cages and all my plates. I don't think I had a gym until probably Michigan. We bought a cheap Dick's, something from Dick's that had the pec neck in it, so something that Gluck would freak out about because of the cables. Sorry, Adrian. Uh, yeah. So yeah, just a real dumpster fire of a cage, but yeah, it had a pec deck on it and it had some cables off the corner, but it all came to one area, and I ended up. So that was in Michigan. So I had that in Michigan. That made it to Wisconsin with us, and then I bought. I don't know if you remember stopping by the booth or not, but I had a Smith machine with me, and that Smith machine is a 3D Smith machine that came with. It's a Bodycraft, and I still have it. So I've had that Bodycraft Smith machine probably 16 years,
Wow.
and yeah, and it had arms on it. It had or stats off the front of it. So a functional trainer off the front of it, and then a separate stack in the back. But again, the cables would have made Adrian snap because they have the hollow guides that he hates, that I hate. I actually don't use it. When I took those stacks off to bring that cage to home gym con, I didn't put them back on, and the boys are kind of pissed. So they're still leaning against the wall. And then I don't know what all you can see with this camera. I'm gonna turn
I don't
that
see any of
way.
the gym.
You don't know? This is
Oh,
my basement shop.
oh, okay.
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 So if you look way over there in the corner on that counter, can you see that far?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
The white thing?
Yeah, what's that white thing?
I can't tell. It's too far
Yeah.
away.
Is it too far? I wrapped lights around it so you can see it. It's got a handle on top and a cable coming out the front of it.
I
It's a
cannot tell.
it's a Voltra.
Oh, okay. You
Yeah.
got a vulture
And
now.
there's this is what I'm sitting by.
Okay. Oh, I see it now. I see that one.
That's my that's a lathe.
Okay.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh, my home gyms. You can cut this thing up and I don't care how you do it. So went to Wisconsin, bought the bot or had the bought the Bodycraft cage I still have. I had a body solid. You know how they make the hip sled slash leg press machine?
Yes.
Yeah, bought one of those, bought one of their calf raise machines, and I bought their seated leg extension leg curl machine. And then I must have got most of my plates. Like I don't remember acquiring them, but I had just gobs and gobs of 45-pound plates that I got off of I bought them online or some damn thing. So all that stuff came to Iowa with me. And in Wisconsin, the house we were renting, had an unfinished basement. So I had the run of the basement. So it was full of weightlifting equipment. And then when we came to Iowa, the basement's finished and I had one room. So that one room has the Bodycraft cage in it and a rack of dumbbells up to 50. And then I have the power blocks with the add-ons. So those go up to what, 140 or something like that. I don't use those anymore. I actually don't hardly use any dumbbells anymore as I'm aging. But and then we actually have a Titan squat stand slash bench thing. Actually, that's where we bench. And then we have the Red Rogue 4-post um, cage that we brought to Home Gym Con,
Yep.
which is still in the trailer. So yeah, yeah, right. So you know what it works really good for when it's laying down? If you have to move furniture, you can
You
slide
put it on.
furniture.
Yeah.
You can slide furniture inside of it and then tie the furniture to it. So that's when it last got used, and the bench is still out. And so this garage, you see the ceiling?
Yes.
It's concrete. So there's another full garage above this ceiling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And there's actually, so I don't know about if you can get an idea of the scope of that machine.
So you bought a house where you could do a lot of different, had a lot of extra room for stuff like this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have a full garage under my garage. And then but half of that upstairs garage is dedicated to machining. And then I rent a shop about 4 miles away that has I want to say it's probably 40 by 34 as well. And that's where a lot of my welding stuff is, and my plasma cutting stuff is at that shop. So,
Got it. So you're a
you
busy
know,
guy. You stay
uh,
busy.
I, I do a lot, like I sent you pictures of my plumbing project.
Yeah.
That is, so the nice thing about that project is I don't have to hurry because I'm putting 2 boilers in, and I'd already put in. Have you heard of a heat pump water heater?
Yes.
So yeah, so I put a heat pump water heater in. Um, the house was initially the hot water came from what's called an indirect fired water heater, which means a boiler heats water in a closed system, and that closed system has a coil inside of a water heater, so it puts hot water through this coil, which heats the water in the tank, right? And then that also gets used for the floor heat in this garage. And then there's a register, like a big box up in the corner that has a coil in it that hot water goes through, and then a fan blows through that, and that heats the upstairs garage. Well, that boiler, I've been limping that boiler along since we moved into the house. What year is this? 25, so 13 years ago. And it finally died. And
Mm.
I started so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to switch to a tankless water heater, but the tankless needs more gas. So it's a 200,000 BTU thing. So you need a whole new gas line. So I'm like, well, in the interim, I know I could put an electric water heater in and run a new circuit myself in a day. So I went and bought a heat pump water heater as a temporary thing, and it became semi-permanent. So I got this 80-gallon heat pump water tank or water heater, or the heat pump one. And then I had bought the tankless one already, and then I needed a new boiler. So I'm putting a new boiler in to do the floor and the upstairs garage. And then the tankless water heater is only going to get used for showers and bathtubs, because the tankless, unless you plumb them into some sort of a storage tank, if you shut the water and turn it back on, turn it off and turn it back on, you get a shot of cold water, right? Because it doesn't heat continuously. So for showers and bathtubs, you have basically an unlimited supply of hot water. But anyhow, I'll send you pictures of that project too. Um, what were we talking about? I remember.
Yeah. I think we've pretty much covered. You have a loaded home gym that you built
Yeah.
out
So
over
anyhow, we
time.
came here. Well, we came here, right? And I have all this equipment. I didn't have room for it. So I actually got rid of the hip sled. My kids weren't really big enough to be into lifting, and they were gymnasts. So Jack, my oldest, was a gymnast until he was 14, and he actually broke both of his legs. Not a funny story, but kind of funny. Um, Overuse injuries, right? So gymnastics great
Got
sport.
it.
So
Yeah.
if you got little kids in gymnastics, don't let them stay in it. It's awful for their joints. Jack was an amazing gymnast, and um, He didn't fall. He was doing a double back off of, he had been having some knee pain, did double back off of rings, landed and ripped the growth plate off the top of his shin bone. And just from overuse, stress on it's so hard on the growth plates when they're young. And so I had to have surgery, had that fixed. And then 13 months later, the same thing happened to the other knee. So,
Wow.
so then he was done after that. So
Uh, yeah, yeah, I have heard that,
yeah, yeah,
gymnastics
it's
can be
great. Like
tough.
I would
Yeah,
do it. Like if they were stayed in, like when that happened. So Samuel's 6 years younger than Jack, and Samuel had just won state for his age bracket, and we made him quit. So
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
I have a 10-year-old daughter who does it once a
yeah,
week, not competitive. I think
okay,
it's kind
yeah.
of a perfect balance.
That's
Yeah,
the way
she's
to
not
do
gonna
it.
be a
And even if
competitive
they
gymnast,
compete
yeah.
if for a while, it like he's still super flexible and he's super strong from it. But
Right.
but now he's going to have bad knees. There's no way around that. I don't care how you how much lipstick you put on that pig, it's gonna still a pig. Um, but yeah, so they weren't really into it, and so I just had the cage or the body craft, and we had to pare down, got rid of the other stuff because I was just storing it, and so I got rid of it all. And then I built my first flywheel, Jake, in the year 2017. Flywheel. That's my dirty secret.
How did you do
I have,
that? What'd you
huh?
use? What did you
What
use
did
to
I?
do that?
Well, Jake, I got a garage full of whatever I want to make whatever I want, whenever I want. Well, not whenever I want. My wife and my job kind of dictate a lot of what I do. But so I was looking for a way to work. I tore my ACL and I have a torn meniscus and a torn ACL in my right knee from playing rugby in graduate school. And I never had any surgery. And I'm in my 50s and it's arthritis. I have arthritis in my knee. I can't squat heavy. I bought all the, I've made some dumb choices in my life, Jake. I bought, you know what a one wheel is, right?
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, I had two. I bought two. I bought one. We were in Florida. Just a lot of tangents. So we were in Florida. I'm like, holy cow, that looks like fun. Went at the store. I came back. I ordered one when I got home. And it's like, oh, you can ride it off road. So I'm trying to ride. I could drive it in the driveway, no problem. But my hill's full of my yard's full of hills. And I'm trying to ride this thing through my yard. And the funny thing about a one wheel, Jake, is you lean forward to make it go forward, right? So you lean forward to make it go. And guess what? When it wants to stop, all your weight's already on your front foot. So when you fall, you're always falling on the same shoulder. And it's like I've I had so I took so my bright idea. So this was pandemic time, right? So um, I'm working down about 60 miles away from home, and the kids are getting to be that age where they're going to need cars, and there's literally nothing to buy except Chevy Bolts. You know what a Chevy Bolt is? It's a tiny electric car about this big. So,
Oh, yeah, I know what a
yeah.
Chevy Bolt is, yeah.
So at this time, so my daughter was much obviously smaller at the time, but do you ever watch the show Psych? So the show Psych, well, there's this car, they call it the Blueberry, right? So, so I found a blue Chevy Bolt that looked like this little car in Psych that she loved so much. Anyhow, so I went down, I bought one, I brought it home, and I drove it for a week, and I called him. I said, I'll take another one. So I bought two Chevy Bolts a week apart and drove them back and forth to Burlington, Iowa, which is about 60 miles. And there wasn't a place at the hospital to charge. So I would park at the college across the highway and then ride the one wheel over to the clinic, to the hospital. Right. And it was fun, right? I'm zooming over. And then the first time I fell, I I was I had a gap, right? A patient had rescheduled or something. I told my nurse, I said, I'm gonna run get my car. I'll be right back. So I grabbed my one wheel, I'm running out the door. I'm trying to gauge traffic because it's actually a highway, it's like 45 miles an hour or something like that, but it's not. But, so it's up a crest and then you have to shoot across the highway. So I'm gauging traffic and I roll up on my one wheel and I'm standing there balancing and I'm like, okay, I'm going for it. And I leaned into this thing hard. And at the time I was probably 220 and they're not designed for heavier people, right? So this thing says nope, and it drops the nose on me as I'm rolling.
Mm.
So I leaned into it, go faster, it dropped the nose, dumped me right in the highway in front of a car in the middle of clinic as an orthopedic surgeon. So talk about poor choices. So I gather myself, I go get my car, get back to clinic. My arms are just, road rashed, and they're like, "What the hell happened to you?" I'm like, "I'm all right. Never mind." And the last time I fell, I was at work as well. So we were. It's a pretty good sized hospital, so it was faster to cut outside to get over to surgery. So, and I'd had like an afternoon surgery scheduled. But if you can go get your patient marked, right? Go put your marks on the patient and say, "Yep, I saw the patient." You can take them back, and then you can leave clinic, and then go straight to the OR instead of having them to wait for you. So I got my one wheel out, and I'm going over, and I turn it on. I set it on the ground. I get up on it to balance, and it doesn't go. And so I rocked back to get off of it, and it shot out from underneath me. And when it did, it felt like I flew 6 feet up in the air. And when I came down, all of my weight came down on my forearm and just totally jammed my shoulder. I'm like, that was awful. Like I couldn't, I could barely move my arm. I'm like, I'm so lucky I didn't break anything. I think if it weren't for weightlifting, because it makes your bones stronger, obviously, right? I would have broke something. But for probably a year and a half, when I would bench, I fell on this side, my left AC joint would click, and it finally quit clicking. But I ignored it for a really long time. And so one wheels are a bad idea,
One wheels are a bad
especially
idea.
yeah, especially if you're a doctor. But anyhow, I bought this little car, was driving back and forth, and that's I don't even remember
Got
what
it.
we're talking about anymore.
So how did we get into the weight releasers? Can you tell the story behind, you kind of touched
Oh,
on it
sure.
earlier.
So
Weight releasers.
I'm done down in Gitmo. I'm back in Wisconsin, and you know,
And then can
I
you
tried
explain what Gitmo is? Because
Gitmo is
that's a
Guantanamo
term.
Bay.
Yeah, that's a
Guan
term I never heard of, but I knew you were in Guantanamo Bay, so I kind of put
Yeah,
two
so
and two.
Guantanamo Bay is Gitmo,
Right.
GTMO, uh, and so Guantanamo Bay, Gitmo is the military base down there. So when I was down there, it wasn't open, right? So you didn't have you couldn't just wander around Cuba. You were in a fenced-in area on a U.S. naval station that was technically United States soil, I guess, is how
Right.
they kind of claim it to be. So when I first got down there, right? So uh, you travel all day to get there, you land, and then you take a boat ride across the bay to where you're going, and then the guy you're replacing meets you, and he's like, "Oh, we got surgery." I'm like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "But let's go golfing first." So we go to this I don't even know if it's a 9-hole golf course, but it was like golfing on gravel, right? So you tee off, and it's like gravel. They're huge. I don't know. I don't know if they're iguanas or what the lizards are down there, but they're freaking everywhere. And so we do this golfing, and then it's like, okay, we're operating on a Gitmo patient, or not a Gitmo patient, a Gitmo prisoner. So a 9/11 prisoner. And I'm like, what?
Hmm.
Because yeah, so uh, when you operate on a prisoner, you can only do it at night. So you have to schedule this, and when they do, so when they bring the prisoner into the hospital, he's got a hood over his head. They cover up any pictures that can't come, any pictures that can't come down. They cover up so that there's nothing, even though he's got a hood on.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And it's midnight. We're doing this at like midnight, so that he can't see where he is or anything. Um, yeah. So we did that. Sir, that was the longest day I can remember. I was flying from home down to I don't even remember where it was, somewhere in Florida, and then over to Gitmo, and then playing golf, and then operating all in one day. And so I get back home from that, and I've got so while I was in Cuba, I'm trying to learn CAD, right? Because I'm like, okay, I want to, but the internet's awful down there, so you can't even download anything to try. Um, so when I got back home, I was learning how to use CAD for the first time. I'd never done any. I'd used CAD one other time before, and it was more of a 2D CAD. When I added that second story to my house, I actually drew up the plans for them and had to have an engineer stamp them. So I drew up plans. I downloaded a IntelliCAD. It was, I don't know, I remember that, but I drew up these plans in IntelliCAD, the rafters and all this stuff because they'd never seen anything like that. Any anyhow, so that was my first uh, time using
Yeah.
CAD, and
How
then
long did it take to digest CAD?
um, honestly, if you can, I don't know. I honestly still I use three different CADs still. So I still have SolidWorks. I use Fusion 360 because of the CAM part of it. And then I use Onshape as well. So I have Onshape on my iPad. So if I have an idea, um, I can open up my iPad and just start drawing. So that's pretty cool. And then especially if you're just 3D printing something, like, do I even have one of those down here? For my plumbing, but we're on a tangent again. But anyhow, so yeah, so I'm trying to learn CAD. I get back home. I'm in Wisconsin, and I woke up in the middle of the night because I've been thinking about this weight releaser thing. I'm like, how's this going to work? What would make it, small enough to use? And the first version I came up with, I woke up in the middle of the night, I drew it, and then I 3D printed it. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. This would kind of work. And it looked like a big padlock. And I tried to find the original, but this is kind of what it looked like. This is exactly what it looked like. It looked
Yeah.
like this, only plastic. It was 3D
Okay.
printed. I'd come up with an idea how to make it work, but I didn't have this part yet, right? So I needed a way I had a hook that would open and drop the weight,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So this would open up when the weight would come off, because this
Got it.
pulls up, this moves
Yeah.
up and down and locks it in, right?
Okay.
So that would lock that closed, and when the weight would touch the ground, that would drop open. Well, I
Makes
needed a way
sense.
for the weight to come off. So I machined some little wheels and put bearings in there, right? So I had a version that actually worked. You would touch it down, this would pop open, and then the weight release, right? And so the first version was obviously 3D, was plastic. And then
Do you remember what year this was?
that was 12 or 13.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, it was 12 or 13. And then because we had a move coming up, we moved to Iowa in 2013. And I totally remember doing that. And then I'm like, okay, you can't machine this on, maybe you could, like with the stuff that I had, I couldn't machine it, right? Because I just had a manual, basically a manual milling machine is basically a drill press with a table that moves that you can, with wheels, right? So you can very precise, each crank of the wheel is, that's the wind whistling. I thought someone was coming in. So
I've got the wind whistling too. Yeah.
yeah. So each crank of the wheel is basically positional for milling and that kind of thing, but doing arcs and things like that. I'm like, I don't have any of the stuff to make that. So I actually bought a bench top CNC machine. It was the very first CNC machine I bought, and it came in a box the size of I don't know, maybe like an old TV, right? So it's maybe the box is this big, and it's basically a piece of tube, an L, and it's got a table, but it's got tiny little motors on it. And it's, I'd say it's more for, instead of machining metal, if you want to, jewelry makers use a machine that size for making rings and, stuff they're going to, for doing wax, right? So if you're going to make a wax mold of something and then pour hot metal into it. So the only real part I ever made from that thing was, see that little wheel in the
Oh,
middle?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the very first part, the actual functional part and only functional part I ever made with that thing. That's not the only one, but I made a bunch of them, but, that's the
It
part.
looks kinda complex.
It is complex
Yeah.
because as the story unfolds, Jake, I thought, well, if I can make this thing release, I should be able to put a number on it.
Yo, that's cool, yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then as you pick it up and let it down. So,
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So pretty
Uh-huh.
cool. Yeah. But guess what? It's very complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So the machining for that one. So this was a long time ago. And it's, so pretty intricate for this kind of thing. So, that was fun to make, but it definitely is a proof of concept, you know. But if you think my weight releases are expensive now, imagine if they could do this.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
That's a good
So
idea.
yeah. So that's 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 part of the patent too. Um, so that's how I actually had that design and was writing the patent for that. And when I was just trying to come up with as many versions as I could for the patent, and that's how I came up with the version I have. The more I think about that, it's pretty cool. It's weird to
It's
think that
super
you could.
cool. Super cool.
And
So, I mean, that was 12, 13 years ago.
yeah,
What's happened
the,
since?
so well, the main push. So I there. It's easy to make a prototype, but then how do you make a prototype actually? Um, how do you turn it into production? And then because some of the parts are, so let me first this. All right, so this buckle, right? So that buckle, to make that, it comes out of here's actually the fixture, right? So I buy metal. These are in the metal is 3/8 by a half inch, 12 feet long. It has to be cut
Okay.
down into these little pieces, right?
Okay.
These little pieces actually get loaded on this side, right? So you load a full piece over here. It machines the profile. Let me see if I have an inch. You kick that out. Inches by me, right? So full piece goes on one side. It, the this profile gets machined on it. It looks like that when you take it out, you flip it over, and then that hat gets machined off, and you're left with this part. Okay. So then you take two of those parts, and then I've got a press upstairs, and pins get pushed all the way through. See how the pins come through?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then
Mm-hmm.
the pins get pushed all the way through, and then those get ground off. And then
Gotcha.
that
That's
gets
just one
tumbled.
piece of it.
So that is, uh, it's a lot of work just to make that one part. I don't know. Like I was getting quotes of like $30 a piece or something like that back then. I was trying to, like, could they be welded? Could you do? And I'm just surprised. It's very clean, right? And it has to be, so here, right? The tolerances, right? So it has to, this isn't together, right? So I wanted my buddy worked for a company called Motion Industries, and Motion Industries sells industrial supplies to people, like, so Amazon's got all these conveyors in their factories, right? And when something breaks, that's who they would call, is they called him Motion Mike. And Mike would sell them the belts, the bearings, whatever they needed. He goes, dude, you need to find an off the shelf component so that you don't. I spent
Yeah.
months and months trying to find something off the shelf that would do that. But guess what? There isn't one. And this one, the tolerance, right? It can't slide side to side. Anything with rounded corners would have the potential to rotate over and then get caught. Once this one gets kicked off, it's got nowhere to go. That's why it's got a ramp on the front of it, right? So the tongue pushes it up. Right. So when that gets kicked off of there, it doesn't have anywhere else to go. So even if it gets some weight gets pulled on it, it's going to leave. It has to be purposely put in there. Everybody's
Got
like,
it.
well, can't you make? I wouldn't want to make. I wouldn't want to make it cheaper because I'm the one that is on the. I had a
Right.
guy reach out to me. He goes, "Oh, I came up with a simpler version, and you don't need to use any of it." I'm like, "Yeah, but what happens if you go to do
Yeah.
this and then that gets caught and then the weight doesn't release,
Hmm.
but just, I don't know. Sure. There's certainly cheaper ways to do everything, but, um, this is how they're made. So they get made from,
And you just take a laser to cut them,
no, they go in the
or
milling machine.
the
So
milling
they start
machine.
out like this, right? So they start out just like that. I buy those in 12-foot bars as well. And then that chunk of them, that gets loaded into one side and then machined down, right? And then here's the right. So
Right.
those someday I'll give you a tour of the milling machine. Um,
That'd be cool.
so it takes there's 17 tool changes involved to make those pallets. So those two things get loaded with blank with start out with a blank chunk of metal, right? Half of it gets machined. It gets flipped over. The other half gets machined. There's two parts to the main body, right? There's just the two parts to that, and then what I call it the flicker, and the flicker was actually made in a lathe. And that lathe, because the original way to make them, you had to turn the part 4 times to make it. So if you're making a part and you have to turn it over 4 times, you're not going to be able to make very many at a time. And I was making, here's that little part. That's that part that kicks it out. And so I would make them in a vise and I would make, 5 at a time or whatever. But then they would have to, like I said, they had to be turned at least 3 or 4 times to make them in a vise. And even though
So,
that's a lathe, so a
yeah.
lathe makes round parts, right? So a lathe makes stuff like this is actually made on that lathe. This is part of a flywheel, actually. Um, but that's what a lathe. But this lathe is capable of doing. So most people, when they think about a lathe, it just has a round part, right? But this lathe has what's called live tooling in it, which means it can do milling. So it can cut this flat that's on here, right? So it can make that flat. It can make that slot. It can profile around the slot. It can drill the holes. It can do all these flats. And so it's called a live tooling lathe. And one of the first parts I actually made on it was that. And that's a spool for a flywheel. Have you ever used an eccentric flywheel? The brand eccentric?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Actually, it's the one I built.
Okay. Okay.
So have you ever heard
That looks
of
heavy.
heavy? Well, it has the plates on it, but yeah, it is heavy. It's actually not bad. It's bigger. Uh, have you heard of Strux Box before? So Strux Box, another flywheel company. So I built the first flywheel I ever built was in 2017. And I built it I bought some bearings off a place called Surplus Center and a piece of keyed shaft and welded the pulleys to a to a frame. And then I actually used, and this is a video that I'm actually going to make someday, Jake. So you buy a piece of keyed shaft off a Surplus Center. They sell what's called a pillow block bearing. Okay. And then
Okay.
instead of making your own flywheels, you buy big ass pulleys
Big
and the
pulleys.
pull. Yeah. And that's your
Ah,
flywheel weight. I just put some rubber bands on there for some reason. I don't remember why, but yeah. So those were the first whatever you want to call them, flywheel weights I used were big. That might be like a 12 or 14-inch pulley. And for what eccentric and those guys charge for I think that's a good way to start. I made a whole set. I don't know. I probably have 10 or 15 that I made of different sizes of those. It's pretty interesting making a square hole.
Yeah. Yeah, those
But
prices for the flywheels are insane.
yeah, right. And it's ridiculous. I mean, it's a piece of powder coated steel. So this was one of the Strex box. I think I bought. So I built my first one, and I built another one, and then I wanted to see what commercial ones were like. And the first commercial one I bought was a Strex box, and it actually had a plywood top. It was really light, and I actually just gave it to my niece's husband. But it had a plywood top, and then it had this tiny little base. Right? It's probably no bigger than 2 inches for sure, and had 4 tiny little wood screws holding this shaft to the bottom of this plywood. And they I you could only put certain size flywheels on it, and they sell these great big ones that are, I know I have one here. They sell these great big flywheels, but they're like, oh, you can't use that on that one. But I already cut the opening, right? So this isn't the one, but the opening determines the size of the flywheel. And I wanted to see what it felt like with a big giant flywheel in there. So I ordered one. And instead of just sending me the flywheel, they knew the box probably wasn't up to snuff because of mounting that thing to the plywood with tiny wood screws. They sent me this. They sent me one of their metal ones. Right? So they sent me this,
Mm-hmm.
and it comes with a rubber top and everything. But the problem is the shaft doesn't turn. So they sent me this thing,
Ah,
and the
got
damn
it.
shaft, because the belt comes down through here and then loops and then wraps around here.
Right.
And I just wanted to see how it was made. And so I actually took this apart, remachined the bottom of it, but it's the bearings, I think, that are in it, and they're metric. And I'm like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
That's not why I bought it. I mean, I got this for free, and it's probably, I don't know, $1,500 is what they charge for it. But the reason I bought the first one is because if you bought it in a kit, they have this thing. It's basically a load cell that'll measure force. So you can hook that in between your belt and the flywheel to measure force. And I wanted to see how that worked.
Ah,
And it wasn't that much more to get a flywheel with it. And then I thought, okay, that's cool. And then I'm like, well, what about the eccentric one? So I bought a whole kit of the eccentric stuff. And I took that thing all apart, and I do like it. Um, but it's not great when it's under real heavy loads. The right, so
yeah.
when this is under heavy load, the way they build this, the belt slides to one side. So that's why I put the crowned pulley on there. Actually, that's machined for an eccentric pulley, and that does actually help. But the problem with theirs is because the shaft has two bearings on it, right, and they're this far apart. If it's on uneven ground, that can twist, and then the shaft doesn't spin as freely as it should for something
Yeah,
that costs.
I have had some tangling issues.
So you have an eccentric one at home?
I gave it to my buddy Adam, but I also have a Kratos one, a Kratos
How
flywheel.
do you like that one? I actually, so the funny thing about those guys is they'll send you can buy whatever you want from them. So I actually, on my first one, I built my own, and then I wanted to see how they machined theirs. So there's their flywheel, or there's
Uh,
their pulley.
yeah.
And it's beautifully machined. And actually, for the money that they're charging for it, I thought it was very reasonable.
I prefer the Kratos, um, primarily because it's got a larger block. or for your feet.
Yeah.
Just like the
Yep.
platform is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where, um, I think that's where eccentric, like, to use one, you're like, well, you're not going to stand the widthways on it because then the pulley hops off center, right? So if you line yourself up, but the pulley is hopping off center while you're doing your exercise, I just didn't like that about it. And with this type of, that's why I built a copycat of theirs, is because the pulley only comes, the belt only comes around that, right? So you don't have to
Mhm.
worry about it hopping from side to side. The problem is once again, that platform is pretty small, right? So for, unless you're used to a close grip squat, but if you've got bad knees, that's hard to do.
Yeah. Right.
So, um, but anyhow, you asked about, uh, I remember you asking me about home gym con for next year. Though I may actually end up getting more space from you because I think I'm going to bring some flywheels.
Oh,
And
okay. I was gonna say, are
yeah,
you gonna start doing getting the flywheel game?
yeah. Well, actually, I thought about selling, or at least offering stuff as a kit on the website, right? So I can sell people the block to mount. So the difference between mine and literally everybody else's is it actually has a bearing designed for the purpose. The one in the Strex box just has two little bearings in it stacked on top of each other. Um, like I said, the eccentric one's fine. I do calves on there. That's it. I
Okay.
gotta show you that. You'll like this,
Oh, nice. Yes.
right? And it's
Calf
round.
block. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you've got arthritis in your big toe like I do, you can't go up on your toes. So this
Mm,
allows you to rock over the top and still get up into extension.
mm.
Make sense?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I could put that on the website. I think Soul might bring some stuff like that. The problem, the problem with my flywheel is this guy patented his, and I think I
Got
could
it.
change mine enough. So the main thing with his patent is where his flywheel sits, right? It sits out here close to the edge. And here's why I know way too much about pulleys, right? So, or flywheels. So this is great, right? Because the flywheel sticks way out here and all you got to do is reach down and flick it with your toe and it goes. The problem
Mhm.
is, there's not much room for a belt. So you can fill that space up with a belt, right? So
Mhm.
the first thing I did when I got the one from them, so the way they do theirs is actually 3 layers of webbing, and it's just too thick, right? So it wraps around there and everything feels mushy, right? So they have one longer loop and then a spacer in between because they like to mount it on a pin. It's mounted on a pin. And in the earlier videos of this company, he actually had a pulley. We could see videos of the guy using a pulley with one of the machines, and then never
Uh,
went forward with that in any of their designs. So he did have some promo videos out there early on, and then I think he figured out there wasn't room because you need twice the webbing then, right? So if you're looping it over a pulley, you need twice as much webbing.
that
So
makes sense. Yeah.
so there's no room for that extra webbing here the way he mounts it. So this would
Uh-huh.
have to be mounted farther away. But that's one of the key parts of his patent is that it's close and a certain percentage of it sticks out underneath. So it's easy to activate. But yeah, but they build up with tiny little bearings and their belt is, like I said, it's 3 layers. It's like, it's like using yarn instead of it's as it
Yeah.
wraps, it just doesn't wrap nice and tight so that when you pull back, it's mushy. So,
Gluck wouldn't like
uh,
that either.
yeah.
And
So the weight
what
releaser.
about? Yeah, what
What
about,
about
like, the current status of everything? Yeah, like, yeah, what how are
so
I guess when did you start selling the weight releasers and, yeah, where are you at today?
so I actually right, so we were talking about getting them to production, right, is what we were talking about, and the buckles
Okay.
and machining the little flicker part. I call it a flicker. All my CAD flyers, CAD files call it a flicker. Is that for lack of a better term? It's actually an ejector, right? So it ejects um, but like lining up, anodizing, the weight pins, right? Because I'm like, I don't want to make everything, right? So I tried to, I found someone to make them, and this was around the time of the pandemic and all that stuff. I was trying to do all this stuff, and everything's just gotten so much more expensive. So I don't know. I mean, I've just been sitting on it. I think I got my patent in 21 or 22, to be honest with you. And it's just with life, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and it was, with kids and everything. My kids are finally big enough they can actually help. And Jack actually is help machine some parts. So I don't know. It's just home gym con was, the first. I've had the website up for a long time, but I mean, who's going to spend that much money on a product they've never seen before? You know,
Right.
I think in the people that use it and they see them and they touch them, they get it. You don't have to just be lifting heavy to benefit from it, right? Like I was talking, technically a drop set, but even if you're just benching, let's say I've got 135 pounds on the bar and I only have 25 pounds each on the plates. All of that is good for shoulder stable or on the weight pins. That's good for shoulder stabilization
Yep.
and working on focus and tighten, right? So, instead of just working and trying to get um, so much force, uh, there's times when I'm benching, I just concentrate on squeezing my hands together. Like I'm trying to push my hands together with my chest and use the weight releasers because the burn you get is immense. So I think because of the portability and that, you know, in the right space, the bodybuilders would probably enjoy working out with them. I've actually hung these off of because they're small and they drop out of the way. You could use it on a hip sled. So you could hang like if you want to do a heavy negative on a hip sled, you could load up
Uh-huh.
100 pounds on a side
That
and
makes sense.
do a slow negative, and then for eccentric work, right? So there's a lot of talk about bar speed now and perceived load and all that stuff, and um, so that's where a single heavy eccentric prior to that kind of work is great for building power. So I'm pretty excited. It's pretty cool. It's
It
it's just
it's pretty cool.
I like home gym con was great in the fact that it put me in. Otherwise, how do I know? How do I meet people like you? How do I meet people? Like Abmat. I met the guys from Biggins were right next to us. Those guys were awesome. Um, Steve from Bench Blocks, right?
Yeah.
David Dennis. So it was pretty cool. Just the network part of it, and of course Brian
Yeah.
waited out, and so we're actually um, doing a collaboration on Shopify. So every now and then a weight pen sale comes through from. I'm like, where the heck? It's like, oh, it's from.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and we're trying to develop. Where is that stuff at? So that was the other thing I wanted to show you. So on that, you can see the regular weight releasers, right?
Yeah.
How many sets are in there? What's your guess?
12?
That there's
Oh,
afraid
a
to
lot
touch
more than
them.
that. Or is there more than that?
So there are, I don't know. There's probably 16 weight pins in there, and I think there's 16 of everything in there. So eight full sets of weight releasers.
Okay, 8. So I was close. I was
Yeah,
close.
you were pretty close. Yeah. Right. So that's 8 sets of weight releasers in a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
So I think the portability part of it, because not everybody has a home gym. I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember you asked me why home gym con, and because a lot of people that go to home gym con they get it, right? They get that kind of thing, and they spend the money. They really do. They're not afraid to, um, what was it, JD equipped, right? He's got a new
Yep.
curl bar. He wants $300 for stainless
Hmm.
steel. It's beautiful. It's amazing, you know, and there are people that will buy it. And, it's just like, what I bought, actually my camera's on it, a Buffalo Billy Fab. I have one of his, gliders,
Gliders.
cause
Yeah.
yeah, and it's beautiful. But yeah, I think it was over $400.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of people's favorite thing to buy
Yeah,
for.
right?
It's a home gym. I use my home gym every day.
Yep,
I don't necessarily I don't know. Yeah, there's not many things in the house that you use every single day other than the
right.
absolute necessities, and a home gym is one of those things. I mean, just think about how um you explained you've had certain things for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So like buying something nice, it's gonna definitely last a while. Yeah,
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there. And the
cool.
the part that drives me crazy though is, if I might if I might say so, like, the 3-inch squared, the size of everything, right? Like I don't hate my rug bench, but I do not like if it's moved, like if somebody's like if I'm on a bench, I get out a tape measure and I measure from the foot to the foot so that it's sitting where I want. And if it's not where I want it, I'm like, it drives me crazy because it's such a pain to get that adjusted where you know, that it's just overbuilt. And there's nothing wrong with overbuilding something, but my wife's never going to use that bench, kind of thing.
Right, right.
My daughter isn't going to use that bench. If she's going to, she's going to ask somebody to come and move it for her. And when I built, so to bring my 2 cages to marry um, the Smith machine that I brought to the home gym con to my rug, I built a bracket, a big heavy duty bracket. And I thought, well, I'll just get 1-inch bolts. It was like $90 for bolts just to bolt this thing. I'm like, that's crazy, you know, just so the hardware looked the same. And, it adds a lot of unnecessary cost. I mean, back to Adrian, right? In his video, he talked about, changing how they changed the bolt size on that cage. Did you? I know you watched the video, Jake. Still, don't look at me like that. Uh, yeah, how they changed,
No, I know what you're
the,
talking about. I know
the
what you're
actual
talking about.
fastener, the size of the fasteners up top and on the bottom. That's a huge savings for a company. But then
Yeah,
to charge $4,000 for a wreck like that is ridiculous, anyhow, especially if it's coming from China. Um, But if, I could get out a book right now and look up the tensile strength for a 3/8-inch bolt, and it's plenty to hold together a cage that any one of us are ever going to use. Um,
absolutely.
so yeah, it looks good. It's kind of cool. I mean, obviously, if it's an inch, it's really easy to put together by hand. But
Yeah. Oh, I
but I
know.
do like
I
I
know.
like my road cage. But that's part of it. That's like, if you lose one of those bolts and it's like $25 or whatever to get a new one, it's
Yeah.
just that part to me is kind of bothersome. But what else were we talking about? We talked about some flywheels. So yeah, I plan on bringing some flywheels to Home Gym Con. Um, I didn't show you this yet. What do you
What
think
is
of that?
going on there?
Yeah, right.
What
It's
is that?
actually, you could put your plates on here, right? And then this is something I made a lot with my first weight releaser actually, and then it'll pick them up individually until it's all off, right? So you set your height with,
I thought that's something like that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah. So it's
cool.
just
Yeah.
basically uh,
Yeah,
instead
instead
of
of
using
just one set, you can do 3
instead of
different drop
instead of
sets.
chains, right? So instead of using chains or something like that, you want to know exactly how much you're picking up. I made it a long time ago, right? So that picks the whole thing up, and then this one you would set. Oh, I want this one to lift this high off, so you'd set it up here on the chain towards the top, right? And then the way to pull that one down, and then you'd pick that one up. So the first one would pick up first, then the second one, and then the whole stack would lift up.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, I mean, it was just some. I haven't used it in years. I totally forgot about it, and then I thought, you know what, Jake might like to see that. That was,
Yeah, that's cool.
so it was kind of fun to come up with the idea. I had to machine a slot and a piece of square tubing, and then that's all TIG welded and machined. It's kind of fun to make, but is it functional? Yes. Is it? I don't know. Could you patent it?
It would
You
be
probably could.
expensive, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly patent something like that, and you can make it cheaper, but I don't know that it's worth. Like in a home gym, that would probably be okay because, like, I have four
Yeah,
inch weight pins all over the place, Jake. With some
yeah.
have a 10 and a 5, some have a 10 and a 5 and a 2.5. I have that luxury because I build them, and
Mhm.
like I said, all the ones that are in that bin, except maybe there's at least 12 of those pins are just from my floor. The rest of them came out of stock. But um, for something like this, you can load some plates on it and you can leave it laying around and use it when you want, but it's not something you're like, oh, unless you have the weights, a slotted weight that you could just slide on there.
Mhm.
It was just something I'm like, just trying to think of interesting things to show you that I
Yeah,
was
cool. So so you have flywheels coming up. Anything else? Anything else
um
on your radar for home gym con or just the future in general?
super exciting, but what do you think of that?
What's going on there?
That's a weight pin,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Instead of
So
like a tubular.
instead of a tube,
Yeah, right. What are the
so this,
benefits?
well, manufacturing only,
Okay, right.
right? Because someone has to cut that piece of tube to that length,
Yeah.
right? Unless, I mean, I actually do have a saw now. I bought a saw that will measure and cut something to length, but then you still have to deburr it and put it together. This can all be laser cut, or I'm actually going to try and plasma cut them. This has to be this, that weld is done by a robot, and same with
Mhm.
that. So there's three different welds on this, and I'm surprised at how many weight pins I'm selling separately. It's kind of cool. And I've had some
Hmm.
requests actually. I had a guy, he's like, "Eh, will you make me a 2 inch weight pin?" I'm like, yeah, I mean, if there's a market for it. I said, I can't make you one specifically. It would cost, for what you're paying for one pin. I can't even get one pin powder coated realistically. Right. But, but I might make a run of some really short 2 inch weight pins. What that guy's doing is he bought two and he's doing pullovers with them. So he's laying on a bench and
Oh,
he's using a small plate up here, and then he's putting plates on another, loading weights on another one, and he's using that for pullovers so that he can adjust the weight to whatever
interesting.
he wants. So he actually,
Interesting.
so we've been emailing back and forth, and so I
You
will.
just use a collar to lock in the weight, or
No, he's
is that
just
even
picking it
necessary?
up.
It's not even
He's
necessary.
No, he's
Yeah.
just holding one plate over here. He's just using one, like a 2.5 or something, on here for his hand, just so that it fits his hand better, right? And then just using a carabiner in between two, and then loading the weight on one. He said, actually, if you made me a
Oh,
2 inch
oh,
one,
using
right?
both. Yeah.
Yeah, using both, right? So if you use, yeah, so that it has some swing to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. So I thought that was kind of
That's
cool. So
that's
I've
clever.
had some advice or some requests for some different weight pin type stuff. I actually have some other stuff I'm trying to decide if I want to do like a design patent or something like that on it before I show you. But it's all weight pin related right now. I don't have
Yeah.
any. I don't. I think for simplistic purposes, I've tried, I've gotten a lot of, um, I've designed, I don't even know how many different designs I made of that weight releaser. And I think,
No, that's super cool. Yeah, it makes sense.
yeah, it's,
Cool.
yeah, it's super cool, but it's just, it's fun to make, and I
It's
think
fun. Yeah, it's cool to hear how you just love doing this.
yeah, and that's the part I really, yeah, I didn't do it to, I've been, like I said, I've been using these myself for a really long time. I don't really, it,
Yeah. And
if it
you're an
shifted,
orthopedic surgeon.
yeah,
You're like,
yeah, that's what I
like,
mean. If it shifted
yeah.
to, if it shifted to that, if it turned into, I like building the flywheels. I like doing that kind of stuff. I don't want to be, I mean, technically, if I was very smart, for the money I've got tied up in machines, I'd be machining parts for other people. But I'm
Hmm.
not a machinist. I don't, but I imagine I could pay somebody to run them, but I want some stranger in my house
Right.
running my
Yeah.
machines. But a lot of it's pretty fun. I'm looking forward to Home Gym Con now that got our feet wet with the first one. The
Hmm.
kids had a great time. They all plan, I think, on coming back. And then, so that's going to be fun. And plus it's 3 days this time, right?
Yep.
We're doing
3 days.
three whole
Two and a
days.
half. It's two and a
Oh,
half.
okay.
But yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty much 3 days.
3 days. And then, it's on my anniversary, so it has to be good.
Has to
Um,
be.
yeah. So that's pretty much it, I think. I mean, we went
Yeah.
through the
And
flywheel
yeah.
stuff. I showed you my prototype, the counter, kind of how they're
No,
made.
this was great. I think a lot of people will enjoy this. It was good to get your background and walk me through these things.
Yeah.
Cool story. Love what you're up to.
Yeah.
Um,
If you want to do another one where we're actually machining some parts or something at some
yeah,
point,
maybe we can do another one before Home Gym Con.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. All
All
right,
right.
well, I guess we can close it. I'll make sure to plug in your website. Anything else people should know before we go?
Black Friday, I don't know. We'll probably run our Black Friday sale for probably, I don't know how long, but, um, Black Friday, we're going to do 20% off on one set and then 25% off two sets. So
Sounds good. I'll make sure people know.
awesome.
When's that run through?
We'll probably do it at least a week, I would imagine.
A week.
So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Sounds good. Well, hopefully do this again before Home Gym Con. If not,
yeah,
I'll see you at Home Gym Con.
I'm sure I'll talk to you before then. If you
I'm
want to get
sure.
rid of some more floor space, let me know.
What do you mean by that?
Well,
Okay. Got
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Well, let me check where you're at on the map.
yeah.
We'll
There's
have
no
to
one
make sure
behind me
there's
yet. There's still no one behind me yet. Or at least there wasn't. So,
all right, we can talk about that. All
all
right.
right,
I'm gonna
man.
hit the stop. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. Thanks, Jake.